Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our YNR chat for Sunday, June 29th, 2014. I'm posting this all audio version of our chat for this week on Sunday afternoon, evening as usual. I'm actually recording it Saturday night. Well, no, I guess technically it's after midnight, so it's technically Sunday still. It's still a Sunday YNR chat. But my schedule was a little bit unusual this week. I normally don't like to start things out on a bummer note. I try to keep it positive right up top, but I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but I have a 15-year-old pet rabbit. I've actually had her since 1999. 15 is exceedingly old for a rabbit. I've been very, very close with her. Really big part of my life. And I had to put her to sleep this weekend. And it was really hard. And not just because I miss her, which I do, and not just because it was horrible, which it was, but she was really part of my daily life for 15 years. And I just wanted to be honest, because, about why I'm kind of just posting an audio version and why maybe I'm a little bit more low energy. I do try to be honest, and I didn't want anybody to think I'm just slagging off or not fully committing by not doing a full video and all the bells and whistles this week. And I hesitated about whether I would mention it because it's not YNR related, but I can tie it into YNR because I will say that rabbit, Buns is her name. She watched a lot of episodes of YNR with me. She was a smart rabbit, and I know she knew that YNR theme song. She knew those voices. She was highly responsive to voices, those big ears. And it was something that I know she was familiar with. It was part of her routine and her schedule too. And my schedule is very much thrown off this week. I'm kind of needing to allow myself a period of mourning, and I'm sort of trying to, move on. And I had so many routines based around her, and it's just weird. Like, what do I do now with this time frame where I would normally be playing with the bunny or feeding the bunny or whatever? It's been really difficult, and it's been weighing really heavy on my mind. It's part of my everyday for 15 years, very much like YNR. At some points it's more of a background story. At some points it's really forefront in my mind, kind of like how, a pet is sometimes. But I also wanted to say and relate that YNR has really helped me this week. This actually just happened on Friday, and it's every second I close my eyes, I'm thinking of it, and it's really, really in my head, and being able to escape into the show has been really helpful for me, and I think to some extent that is what it's about, and that is what we do. We tend to have a little bit of escapism here with the show, and it's made a difference for me to just sink into Genoa City and deal with their problems for a while rather than my own. So that's kind of what's going on with me, and just wanted to keep you informed. But let's talk about the show, because it was a really intense week. The absolute second that Nikki finishes her sentence telling Paul that he's Dylan's father, he starts to flutter his eyes. It's a miracle. No, wait, it's a death blow, actually. I wasn't sure which it was going to be. It seemed like he was going to open his eyes and just come back to us, but then Father Todd rushes in to perform the last rites, and Nikki rushes out into the hall and realizes that Dylan overheard the whole thing, the whole confession, her telling Paul that Dylan's his son. Dylan overheard the whole thing, and now he's trying to process it. I can't imagine finding out that way. I'm trying to look at it from Dylan's perspective, and I'm thinking, wouldn't it make you feel kind of bad that your mom had no idea who your father was? I mean, I'm sure it's not that entirely uncommon, but I still don't see how Nikki didn't connect these dots before. I guess the larger issue is that Dylan, as the information is sinking into him, is realizing that he could have killed his own father. That detective really made him feel guilty for what happened at the scene. And even though I don't think it was Dylan's fault that Paul got shot by any means, but Dylan's really carrying that guilt and realizing that he could have killed his own father. And Dylan begins to insist on giving his liver, despite the fact that the doctors have said no, despite the fact that Nikki is begging him not to do this because of his war injuries. He could die. But then, interestingly, on the other side of the argument is Christine, and she thinks this is an excellent idea. Yes, please donate part of your liver to try to save Paul's life. And right smack dab in the middle was Michael. And I thought, well, that's an interesting use of Michael. Dylan asks him, what's his legal advice? Can Dylan, as the patient, override the doctor's recommendation and, force them to perform this transplant? And Michael admits that there have been cases where the person in Dylan's position would have won. And so Dylan just blurts out, I'm not gonna let my father die. And that's how Christine finds out that it's not just Dylan being altruistic. Dylan wants to donate part of his liver to help save his father. How devastating for Chris. Crushing for Chris. And I feel kind of humiliated for Nikki because it just makes her look bad. It's her having not really kept a hold or handle on her situation, and it caused some issues. It caused some discomfort. But the ultimate decision about the transplant lies with Dylan. So Nikki doesn't want him to do it. She goes to Avery, briefs her on the situation, and is relying on Avery to help convince Dylan to not go through with a life-threatening surgery. Avery gets there at the hospital just in time to say goodbye to Dylan getting wheeled away into surgery, and good luck. And I know that she wanted to convince him otherwise, but she really couldn't. Dylan is a very stubborn man. Dylan does also have a quick moment with his father, Paul, who is in a coma, not really hearing them, but he goes in and talks to Paul, knowing that one of them could die from this surgery they're both entering into, or both of them could die. And then Dylan goes off into surgery, so does Paul. I really appreciated Steve Burton in those scenes. He is a really good actor, and I did resent him a little bit the way Y&R. I think they kind of mishandled bringing him onto the show in the first place. They just shoved him up in our faces, and it was Dylan this and Dylan that and everything about Dylan. And I do think this scene, or this storyline has endeared me to him and really showed me that he is a good actor, and I appreciated him in that moment. I like the chemistry between he and Jessica Collins, between Dylan and Avery. I think it works. I always thought it did. I immediately, when they started having scenes together, I liked it. I was feeling it, really, really feeling Dylan and Avery this week. I like that Victor is finally accepting Dylan as Nikki's son and telling her as such. Victor accepting Dylan as Nikki and Paul's son is another story. There was just a brief little scene where now that the secret is out, Nikki tells Victor, we're going to have to talk about this. We're going to have to process this together. And Victor dodges. He does not want to talk about that. He does not want to acknowledge that. He's perfectly fine thinking that Dylan is Nikki's, but he doesn't want to think about Nikki having this son with another upstanding guy. I mean, the situation with Ian was Nikki being victimized, but the situation with Paul, that's very different, and maybe that's going to make him look at her in a different way, treat Paul in a different way. I don't know. I think that is all in the future. We will see. A couple episodes later, the surgery is complete. Dylan wakes up in his hospital room. Paul wakes up in his hospital room at virtually the same time. I loved seeing their foggy-eyed perspectives. It was kind of a blurry camera shot. Dylan looking up at Nikki and Avery fuzzily, and Paul looking up at Christine fuzzily. I tell ya, I've already given props to Steve Burton, so now I got to give it to Doug Davidson. He was amazing. Did you not love Paul this week? He was totally believable as someone just waking up out of a coma. He was confused. He was having difficulty speaking. I believed it immediately. And Christine's there with him. The first thing he starts asking about is a child. I think because he's heard little blurbs from Nikki. I don't know if he remembers that, and maybe he remembers, I don't know what, from Dylan, but it's somehow an incomplete seed in his brain, and he starts muttering about a child, and as soon as he does, Christine is alone with him, hoping he's talking about their child. But she puts the kibosh on him even thinking about it when she realizes that's not what he's thinking about. Now, Christine goes out into the waiting room, and Nikki mentions in the waiting room that she would like to see Paul and would like to discuss with him that Dylan is their son, and Chris is ferocious. It is what I've been waiting to see. Paul is my husband, and I will tell him, don't you dare breathe a word of this. I love aggressive Christine. I do. I like Christine owning. And, I guess when I think about it, she was never a passive little pansy. I mean, she was a lawyer, and she had some passion. She gave us some passion throughout the years, but I think it's easy to see her as more meek and more calm. But yeah, she was ready to claw Nikki's eyes out, and I really felt bad for Nikki a little bit. I understand where she's coming from. She's just learned this truth for herself, and she, above and beyond knowing that she and Paul have a son together, this is, Paul's one of her very oldest friends, and she was concerned about him too, and I think it really hurt her feelings that Christine was so visceral, and Christine later apologized, but of course, as this conversation is going on out in the hallway, Dylan has wheeled his way into Paul's room and has started talking to him. Paul's conscious, started talking to Paul as if he knows that, as if it's an open secret now. Paul hasn't fully realized that Dylan is his son, and Dylan's just going on like he knows everything. I mean, Dylan was out for a couple of hours. Paul's been in a coma for a while. He was very, very near death, and it totally confuses Paul. He has no idea what's going on. Everyone rushes into the room. Paul is frantic. He thinks that Dylan is Ricky. I mean, because Dylan has mentioned about the shooting, Paul being shot, Paul just remembers the day that he shot his own son, that he shot Ricky. And in fact, today is even the anniversary day of the day that Paul shot his own son. What are the odds of that? Oh, it sends Paul into a full-on flashback, like he's in the room with Ricky on the day that he shot him, and Paul's freaking out. He's ripping the cords out of his tubes, and Chris rushes out to get a nurse. She's trying to calm him down, but he will not. She rushes out to get a nurse. And Nikki realizes what's going on, and she rushes into the room to take over while Chris is gone. And then she proceeds to do the exact thing that Chris asked her not to do. She tells Paul that Dylan is his son, and it calms him down. I don't know if it was just confusing him more, he was just more befuddled, or if it somehow started to make sense to him. But it was so intense and awesome. It was good viewing. It was good distraction for me, let me tell ya. But as good as the whole Paul frantic waking up thing was, my favorite part of this whole storyline was not even a couple of hours after major surgery, Dylan and Avery are having a private moment in his room alone together in the hospital. He's in the hospital bed and he's giving her sex eyes ready to get it on. I don't really know why Dylan blames himself for Paul's shooting. It really is Austin that fired the gun. He's sort of the bad guy here. Let us not forget. It is worth noting that Leslie takes over the position as Austin's attorney, and I hope that that stays the case. I think it's inappropriate for Avery to represent Austin at his trial. Having Leslie is just as good. That's kind of something that I had suggested this past week, and I think it's very valid. So Leslie has this meeting with her client, Austin, and I loved the moment where she said to him, I'm going to get this taken care of. Don't worry, you confessed, but it was without an attorney. I'm going to have that mitigated. Don't worry, I gotcha. Do you still think defense attorneys are evil? Because they had that nasty moment a couple weeks ago, and so it was kind of nice for her to go, yeah, well, maybe you might need one someday. So I did enjoy that. Now, he is in jail. Austin has had a meeting with Summer. He lets her know that the conditions are not great. Well, it's jail. No toothbrush. Same clothes I've been wearing. I know that is bad. But more so, Austin is concerned about his mortal safety, which I'm sure is extremely valid because the cops have not been particularly nice to him considering he shot their chief of police. I don't know why you would turn yourself into the Genoa City jail in the first place. They were out of town. Why would he go back to the original Genoa City jail to turn himself in? He should have gone to somewhere else. Maybe they would have extradited him anyway. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably it. But anyway, he's concerned about his physical safety, and Summer is in love with this man, so she begins becoming determined to get him out of jail. She needs to raise the funds so that she can get him out on bail, and then they're gonna find an apartment together in the interim before the trial, and then when he's exonerated, they can live happily ever after. She's got it all planned out in her head, and her head ain't straight, so it ain't gonna work. Thing is, though, she doesn't really have access to her money. I don't know why she doesn't have money from the Newmans. I don't know why. Maybe all of her money is in trust. She is still very young, and perhaps that trust was transferred over to Jack. But Summer goes to Jack asking to let her get to her money to bail Austin out of jail. Jack is immediately like, oh no, you can just forget it. And rightfully so. Yes, if this is your daughter, do you let her touch her inheritance to bail out a criminal? No. No. When he turns her down, she's even so desperate that she runs into Kelly at the park and asks Kelly to talk to him. And Summer, she's really lashing out too. She said something to Jack like, well, that's fine. I knew you wouldn't help me anyway. And just started accusing him of basically being a traitor because he moved on from her mother, moved on from Phyllis with Kelly, and then Summer runs into Kelly in the park and asks her if she can talk to Jack, and which is, I think just pretty desperate. And when that doesn't work out, she goes to Nick and gives him a guilt trip when he tells her it's a bad idea to go bailing Austin out, to be involved with him, A, to B, want to try to get your hands on some money to try to get him out of jail. It's a bad idea. And she starts giving him a guilt trip like, I thought you were different. And she knows what buttons to push too, because Nick wants to be the good guy, and she knows exactly that, I thought you were different is going to, really, really get at him. Well, Summer, maybe if everyone in your life is telling you that something or someone is a bad idea, then maybe it's a bad idea. I don't know if this is going to be brought up again in the future, but Ian Ward and Leslie, I don't know why I always call him Ian Ward. I always have to do a first name, last name with him. Ian will suffice, Allie. I'll just use that from now on. Ian is planning to press charges against Leslie, and they have this run-in in the coffee house where he tells her he's already called, I don't know, the board of lawyers. Something for, I don't know, malpractice or speaking out of court or yuggity doogity because she's shared his secret. And he told her in confidence, client patient confidentiality. I don't know. It's after midnight, folks. He told her in confidence, as between a lawyer and a client, about the fact that Dylan was not his real son, I think knowing that he, tempting her and wanting the secret to get out there. But this, of course, the fact that she went and told Nikki has made him decide he's going to press charges or whatever against her. I don't even know how that would stick. Who's going to corroborate that? Why couldn't she just deny that she ever told Nikki, and Nikki can say, yeah, she never told me anything. So I don't know if that's going to come into play or not. But even though Ian is not Dylan's father, and I'm glad it's that way, even though paternity twists, it's kind of all getting on my nerves, I buy Dylan as Paul's son. It works for me. So Ian just kind of creeping around and being a generally menacing figure works for me. Now, Victor catches Ian giving Mariah a pep talk at the club, and as soon as Ian leaves, Victor can't wait to jump in there and threaten Mariah again, saying something like, you can be my enemy or you can be my ally. It's your choice. I prefer ally. And then walks out, giving her something to think about. So she, I think, is not quite sure where she fits in, where she should fit in. Nick goes to pay a visit to her in her hotel room at Sharon's behest, of course. And Nick apologizes to her for everything that went down last week with Noah and Abby setting her up and making it look like she stole that wallet, and then Mariah quit the job, and Nick apologizes to her for everything that went down and offers her job back, and she actually agrees. I don't know why. I really don't know why. She's gonna pay Sharon back $30 at a time. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but Nick tells her, all right, you can come back to the underground, but I've got a few rules, including one that she needs to leave town as soon as her debt is paid. So so in 20 years from now, Mariah, you can just leave town. It's so stupid. But I like Mariah's spunk. I like that she said, all right, I'll agree to your rule. Can I have a raise? I like her. I like her a lot. Nick and Sharon are getting back on track. Nick has officially moved back home. I like seeing him there. I like seeing them together. How long has it been since he lived in that house that was built for them? He's been in the tacky house forever. It's nice to see him back where he belongs, not living out there with the horses. Sharon is thinking that Mariah maybe left town. She's left a couple voicemails for her and she hasn't responded. Despite the fact that Nick has offered her, extended the olive branch, Sharon thinks maybe she's gone. So to confirm this, Nick goes back to visit Mariah and sees Ian exiting her room. And Nick immediately questions Mariah, saying, "What is the connection between you two? I didn't, this is the first time he's learning about it." And Mariah reveals that her mother was a member of the Path, and that Ian has been like a father to her. Nick says, "What about your own father?" And she says, "What father?" So Ian has just become this guiding force in her life. I don't think it's anything more than just she's one of his followers. I don't think she's part of any big scheme that he's cooking up, unless I'm wrong. I don't know. But the fact that there's this question out there now about her father. And her mother was so if her mother was a member of the Path, she's if it's going to turn out that Mariah is Sharon's daughter, then she must have been raised by some other adopted mother. And who's the father? Is there any chance that she could be Nick's daughter somehow, considering how they're playing up this rivalry between them? And I can't see how that's possible, but who knows? Ian's presence at Mariah's place was enough to send him back to dear old dad. He goes to Victor and tells him that he wants to partner together to keep an eye on this girl. Now, I think just right after that went on, Tyler was in the park begging Abby to take him back. Now, I didn't care anything about that. Just another in a long line of Tyler saying, "Please forgive me. Let's get back together. We're meant to be. Let's get married, blah, blah, blah." Well, Mariah is strolling by as all this is going on, and she decides to bust Abby for what she did, for setting her up, getting her fired. And as soon as Abby tries to explain herself, but as soon as Tyler realized what lengths Abby would go to frame Mariah and get her out of her life, out of their lives, Tyler changed his tune real quick. And he said to Abby, "Maybe I'm changing my mind here. You're not much better than Mariah, are you?" And he kind of walked away. And I'm glad. I don't care for Abby and Tyler's relationship. I like the rivalry between Mariah and Abby, if for nothing else because I like Mariah and really dislike Abby, and I want to see Abby get a smackdown. Abby is just such. I know there are people who like her, and I am glad. And I'm not trying to diss on her, but I guess I am. I don't know. Abby's just such a talking Barbie doll to me. I like Mariah because she seems like a real girl. I noticed this week that, she's got some curves to her. Look at all the women on the show. They're all so bone rail thin. And it's just nice to see somebody who looks like, she's the girl next door. She doesn't have to be a super thin model, and she's the actress Cameron Grimes is not there because she's a model or because she's just a pretty face. She's there because she's a good actress, and I appreciate that, especially at this point in time in the show. And that's not true. It's not all girls on the show are bone raw thin. I shouldn't say that, but I guess just in comparison to Abby, I just like it. I identify more with her. Nick and Sharon were having this big family get-together dinner this week where Nick is newly moved in, and so they're going to have a dinner with Faith and Noah, and it's a family dinner, and Sharon invites Mariah. I can see where that did not rub Nick the right way, did not rub Noah the right way. It confused Faith a little bit. But Sharon just insisted, and there was some cute moments in there between Mariah and Faith, and I like that Mariah doesn't seem to feel comfortable. I like that. It's not just like she's sliding right in there like she's besties with everyone. It's sort of a connection that Sharon is forcing, but on some level, it does feel almost like old times seeing them all back there in that house. almost like old times, minus the fact that no one wants Mariah there except Sharon. At the 11th hour, Devon lays it all on the line. He's in the park with Hillary, and he's telling her, we had something together, but we let it go. And I want you to acknowledge that. But Hillary insists she's happy with Neil. And I almost get the impression from Hillary's side of the argument that she finds Neil to be the safe bet. That Hillary's someone who hasn't had safety. Her world was upheaved when her mother died an untimely death, and she'd spent a lot of time focusing on revenge, much in the same way Austin did. I'm not making that connection until right this very moment, but I think Neil represents a calm in an otherwise stormy life. And so I don't think she wants to ruin that. And Devon flat out asks her, but do you have feelings for me? And she denies it. And he's like, well, how about now? Kisses her. She kisses back, and the moment that they pull away from the kiss, she slapped him. And what I liked the most was that it went from a slap to her covering her mouth, like, I can't believe I just did that. What's going on here? What's happening? I thought I knew what I was doing, and now here at the 11th hour, on the eve of my marrying Neil, a curveball named Devon. And she refused to move forward, tells him that he better never mention that this ever even happened. And he abides. Neil walks up, of course, in the middle of it, and they drop the whole thing. And Devon leaves, and so the wedding is on. I guess it was the next day, Hillary is at the office, and she tells Jack that she's getting married, and she says she is sorry about the fact that she kissed him, and insists that she really does love Neil. And at the same time, Neil is painfully asking Devon to be his best man. Poor Devon. He's days too late. If he would have just realized that he loved Hillary a couple of days prior to him finding her in the room and making love sounds out of her hotel room with a mystery man, everything would have been different for him. He has to make up an excuse about why he can't be Neil's best man. I really felt bad for him, and I really tried hard to tune in with Hillary this week because I do want to like her. And I'm ready to be open to it. And I will say, Hillary is looking lovely. I thought she looked gorgeous in her navy blue pre-wedding wear. I think we first saw it in the scene with Jack. There's something about the way she's being dressed that seems a little bit more adult now. And the wedding dress was also lovely. I mean, they move forward with the wedding, and she doesn't come in with this classic wedding gown. I think what she was wearing was a lot more mature. I think Hillary knows that she's marrying an older gentleman, so she went for a more distinguished look. But then they asked the hot dog vendor to be their witnesses. It might be a sign that your marriage is not very well approved if you don't have any witnesses. You didn't even think of it, so you got to ask the hot dog vendor to step in for you. That was a little funny. You guys will have to tell me what you thought of the ceremony. Now we know Devon is going to stumble into the ceremony. And he stumbles in just as the priest is assuming that there will be no objections. Now I assume there will be no objections to this union. Flash to Devon's face coming around the corner and Hillary catching his eye. It's so cliche, but I did enjoy it. Hillary shoots, she sees Devon and she shoots him a glare like, don't you mess this up for me. Don't let love get in the way of my marriage. He manages to offer to stand up to be Neil's best man, and I guess he was planning to do it all along. He came there, I think, just to see if there was any chance that she wouldn't go through with it. But she had only a brief hesitation upon seeing Devon standing there, but she ultimately says I do, and Devon had to witness the entire thing, including the kiss and the I do, and then we had to witness the afterward. I really am trying to open myself up to liking Hillary, and I am more open to the idea of liking Hillary and Devon. It's just the Neil and Hillary that I need to get through. Well, Y&R didn't miss a beat on this Billy recast. That's hot topic. I tell you, I went back and forth like, I don't know if I really want to talk about Y&R this week. I don't know if it feels right. I really am mourning. I really am grief, and this is all so very fresh. It really has only been a little over 24 hours. Since a very, very bad day, and I really thought, I just don't know if I can talk about it, but we got that Billy recast. I know everybody's gonna be talking about that. I gotta weigh in. I mean, Burgess Jenkins, Burgess J. I'm sorry, it's irresponsible of me to not know his full name. By next week I'll have it, I swear. I mean, I don't know, to me, they made a big deal about him being older than wanting to recast older. He didn't look to me that much older than David Tom. I mean, he certainly got the hangdog look down. The first scenes were of Billy coming home from Australia to see Victoria, and he was very sad and very beat down, and that is pretty much the essence of Billy Abbott right now. But I tell you, boy, this is going to be a hard one to accept, but I would be surprised if anybody was like, yay, I love this guy right off the bat. I mean, it does take some time to adjust to a new character. You have expectations of the character, of the previous actors, and this is coming from someone who liked both of the previous actors. I think it's going to be a hard one to accept, but I am going to try. Billy Abbott is a spoiled, rich playboy gambler. If I had to describe him in one sentence, it's that. And David Tom originated the role as a teen. It's hard, it's hard to really give a whole lot of depth to a teen character who hasn't really had that much experience. As David Tom played him, it was mostly a romantic connection between he and Mac that was played up and sort of became legendary. But David Tom originated that role. Billy Miller took it to the next level. He is the one that it just made sense. Even going back to my old Y&R chat vlogs where Billy Miller was first cast, oh, I accepted him immediately. I saw it immediately. Oh, this is the grown-up Billy Abbott. It made perfect sense to me. David Tom was easy for me to accept as a recast back in the role recently because I already knew him as Billy. But now this could be a tough one. And that's not saying that there's anything wrong with this actor, but I do think that correct casting can just make or break. Billy comes to see Victoria, and she's not happy about the fact that he was off on this fact-finding mission in Australia. In fact, she's ready for a divorce. Billy's not giving up, but she tells him she's ready to call it quits. Well, it's so weird. I thought that Amelia Heinel did a really nice job with the transition. I didn't sense any difference on her part. I think that she seemed pretty much the same with both actors. But meanwhile, Stitch is deciding to break up with Victoria, not because he wants to, but because he has to. Jenna's forcing him to keep lying. Except when he goes to see Victoria, the way that she started peeling his clothes off made it difficult. Maybe I'm projecting, But I felt like after Victoria told Billy that she wanted the divorce, Stitch stops by. I felt like she was just elated about finally ending things with Billy, or maybe on a high or a rush from about ending things with Billy, or telling him off, or hurting him maybe as bad as he has hurt her. And then I wonder if she kind of projected some of those positive feelings onto Stitch. He's the alternative. Because I know a lot of people think that she really is really in love with Stitch, and that may be the case, but boy, did you see her face while they were making love, and she glances over at her wedding ring and looked horrified by what she was doing, or sad, or regretful. I mean, she hasn't taken off the ring. She's still got the ring on. And then she turns around and kind of throws herself back into the sex. I didn't get warm and fuzzies about her feelings for Stitch during that lovemaking scene. It felt desperate. It felt like Stitch loves her, but I don't know. I think she's torn at the very least. She doesn't know who the baby's father is going to be. It could still be that Billy's the baby's father. So after they're finished with the sexing session, Victoria asks Stitch afterwards, just, hey, tell me something about yourself. Just tell me something, anything. And he, of course, can't come up with anything meaningful. She doesn't know anything meaningful about him. He has to, I think she is trying real desperately to try to hang on to something to believe or validate that this decision that she's made is right. That's just my opinion. I think she really wants to believe that there's nothing deep, dark in Stitch's past that he would hide from her. And so I think she's trying real hard to find the positive things about him. I think she's jumping on the Stitch train just to help her get off of the Billy train. That's just my perspective. She calls Avery to move forward with the divorce. Leslie shows up instead, and it's a little too soon. Victoria's a little surprised that Leslie shows up, and Leslie's like, "Oh, well, Avery's busy right now, and we assumed you just wanted to move. You want a divorce? Well, we'll move forward with it right now." "Oh, am I arriving a little too soon for you?" Because Victoria said, "Well, I thought it might take a while for Avery to get back to me." So she wasn't really ready. I just think it says it all right there. Unless I'm misreading, I think it just, but that says a lot. Oh, by the way, the chemistry between Billy and Chelsea is officially gone for me. Sigh. I really was digging that. I thought that was pretty cool, and now it's completely gone, and I don't know if it's ever going to be back. This actor, this Burgess Burgess J. He reminds me more of Stitch. He seems like he's more of he could be a military guy. He certainly doesn't remind me of David Tom at all. He just doesn't seem like Jack's brother. Maybe that's purely based on superficial impression. I will say about the chemistry between Billy and Chelsea, whereas I thought Amelia Heinel's performance was really seamless, considering she is performing and trying to relay an intimacy with someone that she doesn't know very well, a new actor. I thought her transition was seamless. I'm sorry, Melissa Claire Egan's was not. It felt, it seemed like she was struggling to connect with the actor or something. I'm sure that wasn't the first time they ever met or anything, but it seemed a little more choppy, a little more fakey, considering that Billy and Chelsea had just been through this very intimate trip. They didn't seem very close, just in the beats of the dialogue. It seemed a little uncomfortable. So I don't know. And maybe part of it was because there was supposed to be a tension in the air. All of a sudden, Billy jumps down Chelsea's throat because she makes a vague comparison between his relationship with Victoria and her relationship with Adam, which, by the way, we've got some more Adam hand shots this week. The Adam hands have returned, only we've got a fresh new twist this time on the Adam hands. This time, he's clenching a stress ball. Well, let me tell you, one of the best things that came from that trip to Australia is that Billy goes to Jack and makes him suspicious about Kelly's connection to Stitch. He tells Jack everything they learned, exactly what Jenna said, and Jack does sense that there's something more that Kelly has not shared with him, that there is a connection between she and Stitch. Jack knows that Kelly's the one that tipped Stitch off that Billy was going to Australia. So there's she's hiding something for him. She's hiding something for Stitch from everyone, and Jack deserves to know what it is. Gosh, after Billy Billy did go to Jack and say, I think you should ask her, and Jack did not, he could have clammed up and been like, well, I don't really want to get involved, but he did say, I'm curious, and I will investigate it. So Jack goes to the club, and he catches a moment between Stitch and Kelly where Kelly admits to Stitch that she still loves him. Well, I am more confused than ever. Is this ever going to be clear? Is it? It's like looking through a cloud of smoke. I want Kelly to get busted. I don't know why. I don't know what changed in me, but I want to know what her secret is. I want it to blow up in her face. I've wanted to know what Kelly's secret is longer than Stitch. She's been coming into town with some mystery trauma. I don't know. I want to know what it is. After Summer tells Jack that he's basically a traitor for moving on with another woman, then Jack seeing Stitch with Kelly or overhearing Kelly say she loves Stitch, it has totally rocked Jack's world, and he does not know if it's a good idea to even continue being involved with Kelly. He thinks that she's lied to him, that she's still in love with Stitch. She certainly hasn't been honest about her feelings, and he gave her an opportunity. They had this really awkward fight where I think he wanted Kelly to just, she's just had this intimate moment with Stitch. I think he was kind of feeling her out and waiting to see if she'd tell him, and she didn't want to. She is not going to offer any information on her own, and unless she's directly asked. And I think from Jack's perspective, if she's not going to be completely open and honest with me about what just happened, then that's it. What else do I need to know? I think, and I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of for it, but I think Jack is kind of second guessing his relationship with Kelly and wondering if he made a mistake by getting involved with her. And I'm wondering that too. Okay, Jill is sleeping, swimming, and showering in her $18 million heirloom necklace. I love imagining her going out to get the mail with it on, or going out for a carton of milk, walking through a grocery store with it on. Oh, this old thing? That tickles me. Colin wants to get his greasy hands on the necklace to pay his debt. Hey, here's a weird idea. Just follow me here. I know it's way out there. Why not just be honest with Jill, Colin, and see if she can help you raise the money? Why not just ask her if she can help you? A little honesty might go a long way. Oh, but instead, he drugs her drink. And he participates in a toast to Catherine while he does it, and he puts a drug in her tea. Well, Lily and Kane stop by, and Jill invites him for tea. And Colin has to real quickly get rid of the tea so that all three of them don't get drugged. Oh, but don't worry. He drugs her champagne later after Lily and Kane had left. Before Lily and Kane left, steals Lily's phone, goes to the club to return it to Lily, leaves Jill alone on the couch, calls a burglar, a thief, a cohort, to come get the necklace while Jill is passed out. Only the problem is Lily realizes that she left her phone at the house. Lily comes back in the middle of this robbery, smashes the thief over the head with a priceless crystal vase. The guy drops the necklace, runs away, and Colin's plan is foiled again. Did that about sum it up? Did I do a good job? Wow. The hijinks of Genoa City. Oh man, I like Lily being aggressive. She didn't just say "aye" and scream and cower in a corner because there was a burglar. She hit him over the head with a vase. And that made me very happy to see. It is all very funny, but in the process of me like trying to think about anything but my own grief, I've been going over in my mind this Jill and Colin situation. It's like, do you guys ever get that? Like, everybody has that moment when you're lying in bed at night just before you fall asleep. It's quiet. There's nothing else around you, and whatever thoughts come into your mind come into your mind. And last night mine were all very, very sad and morbid and heartbreaky. And so, I try to shift my mind. I mean, I literally, and this is not the first time I've done this, but I've literally gone, okay, I'm going to think about every single storyline on YNR. Not that I'm not acknowledging my feelings, because I'm very in touch and I'm going through a very healthy grieving process, but I'm like, I need to sleep. So I'm just going to try to distract myself. I'm going to go through every single YNR storyline. I went through this one and I just realized, this whole push-pull of Jill Colin, it is entertaining, but it's starting to wear, Colin, because you cannot tell me that you love Jill and are, looking out for her best interest and then leave her on a couch with a burglar to come by. I mean, couldn't that burglar have completely easily harmed her? I mean, if you love somebody, you're not going to do that to them. If you love somebody, you're not going to steal from them. So I'm even though I like Jill and Colin, I don't believe that he loves her. I don't believe that he knows what love really is. And it bothers me that that's where, that's where it ended up. I didn't want to see this. I didn't want to see him steal the necklace from her to pay his whatever debt. The only thing that I think might be able to save that is if Colin is trying to pay off this debt because some bad guys are threatening to harm her or threatening to harm the family in some way. But still, again, man, honesty, let's try to I'd rather you be honest with me than drug my drink. Maybe it's me. Hey, speaking of that, was Jill always in the opening credits? Or is that new? I don't think I've seen that before. Sometimes I do kind of like, opening credits, I zone out a little bit, look at something else. But I noticed that Jess Walton was in the opening credits this week, giving confidence and sexy lips. I got so many comments and that people really liked the comment section I did last week. Everybody said that they liked hearing me read feedback that I got off of the videos and the podcast and all that. And so I think I'm going to keep doing it. I think I like it too. So first up, my buddy Gary called in and reminded me about the daytime Emmys. This was the first year that it wasn't televised. I mean, that's so kind of sad, right? It's kind of the end of an era, I suppose. But I did hear there was a little bit of controversy since it wasn't televised. I heard there was a lot of swearing, some F-bombs being dropped. So let me know if you guys saw it and enjoyed it. Hunter King won for Best Newer Actress. Amelia Heinel won for, not newer actress, but I think young actress. I think Amelia Heinel won. Even YNR won for the writing. They won for lighting and stuff too. They always sweep. It's always a YNR sweep, but for writing, they got a award for the Gene Cooper tribute show. So that was nice. I think that was really cool. Just separately, Eileen Davidson, by the way, won. It was 4 Days of Our Lives, but it was nice to see that she got one too. And then Billy Miller got one. Ooh, that's gotta sting. I mean, from everything I understood, Billy Miller kind of wanted to stay. He would have stayed with, I don't know, you never know. But what I was hearing was that Billy Miller kind of wanted to stay, and Y&R didn't really want to renegotiate, or I don't know. He could have been asking for too much. I have no idea. But he did win an award, and I'm sure that does sting a little bit, considering the fact that, they could have they've gone through 2 recasts, for crying out loud at this point. They could have just kept him and not upset the fans. So, on that note, I got a message this week from Bobby on Facebook saying the new actor playing Billy, I think he's going to be okay. The one thing Y&R needs to do, again, is to start giving Billy Abbott a nice wardrobe again. Too many jeans and relaxed shirts. Billy Miller's Billy was sharply dressed. And speaking of style, Stitch needs to get out of those plaid shirts. They're too long for him. Ooh, snap, Bobby. On Facebook. I think that was a pretty good comment. These are by no means all of the comments, by the way. Keep in mind, I am recording this on Saturday, and I have had a bad week, so I haven't had a chance. I know there's a couple that I probably missed. I don't think I've made it all the way through my voicemails. I will hear them. But at the time of this recording, I just kind of grabbed some snippets of comments from earlier in the week. Paula Townsend wrote on my website at yrchat.com, bring Billy Miller back. You brought Cassie back. Bring Billy Miller back. So I think he's still got a really, really strong fan base. I think I'm the only one who is that big into David Tom. But there's a lot of people who want Billy Miller back. Christopher Kroom on YouTube said, hi, Allie, please talk in your next videos about actor Billy Miller. He's been confirmed that he's going to be officially joining the cast of General Hospital. Is that confirmed? I did a little Google search on that, and everything I read just said it was a rumor. I had kind of been hearing that too. I have been hearing intermittently that Billy Miller and or Michael Mooney was going to go back, or was going to go to, General Hospital. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if someone else snagged him up. I thought Billy Miller was kind of wanting to do a movie career. Part of me might be, a little bit like, oh, okay, well, that's too bad. Apparently he just wasn't able to work out a contract with Y&R because he's great as Billy. But I did read in this kind of series of articles that people are thinking that Billy Miller would go back to, or would, why do I keep saying that? That he would go to General Hospital and be recast as the role that Steve Burton left. So I guess that's Jason? Would that be a good recast? I don't know if there's any General Hospital fans out there. You'll have to let me know about that. Now, Gina, my friend Gina on Facebook says, oh, for God's sakes, would somebody bring back Drew? Why not recast her? I'm wondering that myself. Master Matt on YouTube also left a similar comment saying, since Y&R loves recasting so much, why not recast Drusilla if the actress can't come back? Instead of seeing Neil in useless relationships, let's get him back with who he truly loved. 2 people saying that, Gina and Master Matt, this week really kind of hit that home to me. I don't know why. I never thought about it, but if they can recast major characters, then why don't they recast Drusilla? Why have they held off like it's sacred? I think maybe did they try recasting Drusilla one time? I want to say maybe they did. Any Y&R historians will have to let me know about that, because my 1 a.m. mind's definitely not going to remember. But I just keep thinking, I've always kind of heard that there was some bitterness between Victoria Rowell and the execs at Y&R, and I do kind of get the impression that she's been pretty vocal against Y&R in their portrayal of the black families, and I know she's spoken out about them really not doing well with Neil's character. I know Christophe St. John has spoke out about them not really doing much with Neil's character. So if they don't really like the actress, why don't they just recast her? It's been so long. I mean, how long has it been since Drew? Maybe because it would be so epic because she was supposed to be back from the dead. But if I wish they would have recast the woman who played Harmony, recast her as Drusilla. She would have been a good Drusilla. I think they could have made that work, and I don't know why they don't just get a really good, even if it takes them a year, keep their eye out for if it takes them 5 years, keep their eye out for a really great Drusilla and just make it work. Now, really, really interesting and wonderful voicemail I got from Henry in South Carolina. Left me a voicemail, couple comments on Facebook. Really enjoyed hearing your voice, though, Henry. I love hearing people's voices. It's just cool to hear other people talk, besides hearing my own voice. And Henry says, Hillary and Leslie are sisters. Wouldn't Gus be their father? And that kind of rocked my world. I never thought about that. I mean, we know who Hillary's mother is, but we don't know who her father is, and that may be exactly what's coming together here. It may be that Gus is going to be both Leslie and Hillary's father. I think for right now, that Y&R seems to be really, really focusing on the relationship, the triangle, the love triangle. But we've already started establishing that Leslie does not approve of this relationship between Neil and Hillary. So I'm wondering if kind of phase 2 of this storyline could be just that maybe Leslie and Hillary are going to be super duper rivals, only to find out that they are actually that they're actually sisters. I'm way more sharp during the day. I'm starting to fall apart here. But I have 2 more comments. Tawny Lovell on YouTube said, Allie, a while I told you about Paul giving Nikki an STD. Paul was a bad boy type back then, and he was a man ho. I've watched Y&R since I was a tween. I love that, Tawny. I love it. I have this book that I've owned since probably 1990, late 1990s. It's a hardcover book. You probably recognize it. There are so few books about Y&R, but it's a hardcover. I think it's called like The Ultimate Y&R or something. And it was published just right around the time that I started watching the show, and so it's been a pretty good history. So as I was first picking up Y&R, I referenced and read that book quite a bit. So I was aware that about the STD. I forgot who gave who what. Boy, my memory just is for storylines is not good. I was kind of aware of that, but I'm not good at filling in all of the details, but I try. And lastly, we chatted a little bit last week about those transitions and what Y&R might be able to do to make them better, and Restless Eye on YouTube made a really good comment saying, Y&R could even tape those buffer scenes in a real garden of a producer. Like, even if it's in LA, no one would notice that, or small interventions would refresh the equilibrium about the outdoor and indoor scenes. Let me say that again. Similar interventions would refresh the equilibrium about outside and indoor scenes, which we chatted a little bit about last week, just sort of so that it wasn't always an indoor world. Restless Eye goes on to say, our little sister, Bold and the Beautiful, they have more outside scenes, so why not make it on our big sister, Y&R? I totally agree. I would never notice if it was filmed in LA or anywhere else. Or, go out and shoot. How bad would it be to get someone in Wisconsin to film some high quality video of some trees or something more realistic? I don't know. I think that needs a little bit of tweaking, Y&R, but I have hope that we'll get there. Okay, 1:13 a.m. It's been a good, I have trouble sleeping because my brain won't turn off thinking sad thoughts. So this has been happy thoughts for me. And the fact that my brain's starting to shut down is a good sign. It hopefully means I will fall asleep without too much trouble. I will go into sleep land. And when I wake up tomorrow, my baby girl will still be gone from this world, but she's still in my heart. And you guys are in my heart. Thanks for listening. I really do appreciate it. And I feel like your support is out there for me. And that's a really good feeling to have. So I hope everybody has a really good week. I'm going to be totally tuned into the show. A beautiful distraction. A young and restless distraction. And we'll be back again next Sunday to chat about it. So, hey, be sure to keep leaving me those comments. You can go to yrchat.com. You can leave YouTube comments, Facebook, Twitter. You can call my voicemail, 309-588-4569. You can also do all of that on the website. There's a billion different ways to contact me, and it'll feel good to